I'm Daniel. I'm a dad with a 7-month-old baby boy on my hands. I will share my stories and learnings from being a father throughout this podcast.
I'm Marcus. I have 3 kids, a 2-year-old girl, a 4-year-old boy, and a 6-year-old boy.
Dad, and then what? Yeah, we got your back. Every day's a mission, but we stay in the fight. From diapers to doubts to the late night life. Real men talk, we don't keep it inside. Tune in, level up, bring the dad wave on. What? The podcast.
And today, we're talking about the moment everything changed when we first become fathers. What are we here for? Why? And what is that? And then what?
Exactly. So I'm sure everyone who's listening to this podcast must be thinking, why are we doing this? Why did this happen? And what we're going to do, especially for the upcoming episodes.
Exactly. And I would say if you just tuned in, welcome to That and Then What? We are a podcast. The shortest version of the story is that we kind of at the same time got the vibe that we needed to do more. Time schedule, we were talking one night. We suddenly decided to do this podcast. And now we sit here 3-4 weeks later with microphones and trying the hell out of podcasting.
Exactly. Preparing ourselves for the upcoming.
I mean, Dad and Then What is where real fathers, we drop the filters. We talk real talk. It's man to man, no theories, no fluff, just honest stories and struggles and the wins you actually can relate to in every day.
Exactly. And I think this is going to be very helpful, especially for ourselves. When we're doing this, we're going to learn more about these experiences that we are having or had before the actual getting into the fatherhood. And of course, maybe later on when we get some guests, perhaps, to this podcast, that how were their experiences regarding this topic.
Absolutely. It's all about fatherhood. It's all about sharing your stories. And hopefully we can share a story or two that you can relate to. So, before fatherhood, what was your experience compared to like what you actually got?
You mean the expectations versus reality, basically?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, for example, my expectations somehow matched the reality, but there were a couple of things that didn't match the reality at all. For example, I thought that when my first kid is going to be born, the baby's going to be pretty easy to take care of, especially for the couple of months. But it turned out to be, well, pretty interesting and kind of difficult, especially for the first nights with the baby when we got home with my wife.
Absolutely. I remember that my expectations was, I would say, coming from a unknown road ahead. So I didn't know what territory I was going into. So I had maybe some expectations about labeling myself as a father, but I didn't have any clue about what was going to happen when the baby actually there. In a quick upsum, my lack of gathering knowledge and seeing the value in actually being able to know how to diaper change and all these things before you stand with the baby in your hand and have to do it would have maybe calmed my nerves and my stress a bit down from before versus to again stand with the baby in hand.
Exactly. And I can kind of relate to that because I come from a family with a couple of younger siblings. So I saw them as babies when they were growing up, etc. And it was not the same when you actually become a father by yourself as well. It's completely different.
Nothing really compares, I would say, to at least if you're able to follow the process from the sideline, of course, the first 9 months, but then be able to be there either outside or inside the birth room and be able to shortly after stand with your little one. That could also be months after. There are some people that I know is sent in war or is away on job in periods, but it's just uncomparable to stand with another human being in your hands that you now all of a sudden have the responsibility for the next at least 18 to 20, 25, or the rest of their life.
Exactly. And when you dive into the unknown, of course, I would believe every dad has some sort of fears or insecurities about the whole thing. And for me, the biggest fear was that, am I going to handle this very well? Am I actually going to be the type of father that I have always wanted to be as well? But at the moment, I would say it turned out pretty well after all. So that's a relief. What about yourself?
Glad to hear that, man. Yeah, I definitely relate to that too. But again, it was more like labels. So yes, I panicked, and yes, I was in situations where I was like, "Whoa, am I gonna deal with this?" And you hear something, but I was never able to calm myself so much down that I sat down, that I actually went in, looked thorough through exactly what was the process for these things, what was the background, and what supported these claims. And that kind of threw me a bit off when it really happened, and I was there with my firstborn son. But I also thought that babies sleep.
Yeah, that's a very common misconception, I would say, especially like coming from mouth of the father,
Exactly.
But yeah, I thought also that babies would sleep so much more than they actually do in the beginning. And that was a huge shock for me. And for the couple of first weeks, it took so much time to get used to the new normal, I would say, within the household, that you have to wake up almost every 1 hour or 2 hours in the night, feed the baby, make sure they're okay, their diaper is changed, and everything's just fine.
But I mean, that was also one of my biggest fears or insecurities, you can call it, that I let it go for so long that when I suddenly stood there in the situation and was actually battle ready, if you say so. Even if it was a diaper change or it was just holding the baby for a little while.
Yeah.
But in the first couple of months to half year, you as a dad it's really limited, I would say, what you can do for the baby. You can sing a little bit, you can like let it sleep on you when it sleep, puke, of course, a lot of puke. Screaming, we don't have to forget that one. But yeah, it was absolutely a big turnaround from what I thought it was to reality.
Absolutely. And that reminds me of another misconception about like being a father compared to the mother. Like I always expected that the father would take care of the baby almost equally compared to the mother, but unfortunately that's not the case, even how much we wanted it to be, you know. So that's kind of unfortunate, but kind of an relief at the same time, I would say.
Unexpected relief. I
Exactly.
agree. You think you're Superman and you are going to help your wife, let's say 50-50.
Exactly.
It's more like 2 and 98.
Something like that.
Yeah. Mental support, of course.
Yes, that's a huge part for the wife, of course, and for the kid to be a mental support and, like being a steady rock around everything.
Absolutely. All right. So the moment where it actually happened, what was what went through you that day?
Oh, it was a very blissful day and kind of stressing day at the same time. For example, of course, I was expecting that the baby is about to born anytime soon when we were that late on the pregnancy, but I wasn't expecting it to happen on that day when it actually happened. I remember I was having just a normal day, checking with my wife that everything's all right. And then a couple of hours went on and I didn't hear anything from her. And all of a sudden, I got a call from her sister that the water broke down and they're on the way to the hospital now. Holy shit, I panicked a little bit in that moment. I stopped everything that I was doing. I said like, okay, now is the time that it's happening. I need to go.
What were you doing?
Oh, I was at the office, working, and I stopped everything. I said that I need to go now. The baby is about to born soon, and I drove so fast to the hospital to check what the situation is actually like at the moment. But when I arrived there and I saw my wife, getting prepared to get to the room, getting into the labor step by step, and that was kind of a relief in that moment. What about for yourself, until getting to the hospital? How was the day like and the experience?
I am pretty convinced that it was a weekend. And as I remember, we were at home and the water broke, and I was freaking out. I was calling my mom, like, "Mom, is this real? How do we do? How many hours from now to when the kids come out?" And
Yeah.
all these questions that, like I said before earlier, I should have looked up myself. Maybe paid a little more interest to. But there we were going to the hospital, and she was kind of taking it more relaxed than I was.
I can imagine you're getting mentally prepared for yourself, to get into the unknown, like we spoke earlier.
24-hour window from when you get to know to probably when the baby is out, and that is scary. 24 hours.
Yeah, that feels like so much longer time than just 24 hours.
Agreed. Actually, a funny thing from that day was that we ended up in a C-section. Kind of, I don't know what you call it, urgent C-section, something like that. Because she wouldn't take the next step in the labor, but was in a lot of pain. And I remember the doctor coming out to me and say, we have did some different things around the birth. We had the same doctor all the way through.
Yeah.
Also doing the birth, and he was saying, like, she's in so much pain right now. What would you like us to do? And I said, ask her, man. It's not me who are in the pain, And she was 100% on board with the C-section right away when he suggested it. And those little, I would say, unexpected, but those 30 minutes, 45 minutes, probably 55 minutes in total, was probably my trip to hell and back. I was kind of having a panic attack.
Yeah.
At the same time, I had my mother-in-law there, and I was walking tireless up and down that fucking floor. I remember exactly how it looks, how I tried to look in through, and it was like through this gate where the people sit and take care of your request and stuff like that. And then there was windows in the back, and I could see exactly the room lighting up red because she was in there. And then suddenly my baby came out in these small baskets, He was so nice that he came out and said everything was all right with her, everything was all right with the baby, and we were okay. And then I could relax a little bit.
Oh man, that must be so blissful feeling after, those type of moments.
Amazing.
Yeah.
But then all the rest starts. Now you're actually a father. Where's your kid going? What's happening now? Why are they taking him up there? When can I see? And they have really strict rules at the hospital we were about visiting hours, about how far in you could go, and these kind of things. So yeah, but that's a story for another time.
Exactly. And for me, it was a little bit different type of experience because I was actually able to be inside the room where my wife gave birth, and oh my days, those hours when we were in there, preparing for the giving birth, and when I could see my wife in so much pain and everything, I tried to be there as supportive as possible. But of course, at the end of the day, I'm very limited to the things that I can actually do to make it easier experience, I would say. And I was preparing mentally for the C-section already because it took like 9 hours to give birth, and I wasn't sure at all that what's actually going to happen. But gladly, the doctor was very good that we were having, and they were able to get the baby out in a natural way. And after I could see my baby, breathing, crying, coming into the world, I was so relieved. I could feel so much love and warmth within myself, and that was so happy moment. And I think, like you said, that opened up a new chapter for the upcoming challenges and opportunities.
Exactly. A lot of stress and anxiety.
100%.
All right. So I'm thinking the first days or maybe kind of weeks after you become a dad, like what was the feelings going through you? I mean, we talked about this being a changed person because now the reality of you actually put another human being into this world and you have the responsibilities kind of beginning to hit you. What was going through you the first days and weeks?
Oh, wow. Well, like you said, it's a completely new reality after you become a father, and you come home with the baby. Well, for us, I think it was pretty laid back couple of first days and weeks in general because we weren't so stressed about the whole thing, all the time. And we could like see the baby sleeping every now and then, eating properly. We could see that they are working properly, I would say. But, of course, you get those sleepless nights, a little bit challenges with getting to know to your new son. So it's pretty different, but I enjoyed it at the end of the day very much. That's how I could say it at the moment. What about for you?
Well, it was a weird time because I was congratulated by so many people, like celebrated. We had cigars and the whole charade with whiskey, and everybody was like, "Congratulations, you're gonna be amazing dad. You're gonna do it." Blah blah blah. And I was like, kind of rolling on this hype, totally unknowing of what the fuck was expecting, or what I could expect, and also compared to what the actual thing is, when it is every day in reality.
Yeah.
So I was living a little bit on this hype, and I think also on the fairy tale of people's good wishes that I was going to be a good dad. Then I kind of identified myself as, if they think it, then I probably will be it. It calmed down my fears and worries about the whole subject. Can I do it, or will I do it good enough?
Exactly. It gives you a whole lot of confidence, about being a father, now that you actually have your kid and you're able to take care of it. So yeah, that's very relatable for me as well. And if we should dive into the couple of surprises that you were experiencing on the first days and first few weeks, I would say, can you give us some examples regarding that?
Yeah, probably the biggest surprises after the first days or weeks. It was probably, I was actually surprised after the C-section how enabled my wife was to do anything the first couple of weeks. She couldn't stand, she couldn't walk, she couldn't barely do anything. And that took a long time to heal and just get her to the point where she could actually walk. Um, so that surprised me a little bit. And on the good note, I was surprised that my son was. Now we talked about this with kids are sleeping, and definitely they are. But I was imagining sleeping more than they are. But he was very quiet. Slept through the night. Like not big screaming issues or anything. So that surprised me in a little bit good way.
Yeah, that's very nice to hear. And like you said, the wife was in a lot of pain, and it took so much time to recover from such an experience. And I can imagine only like how hard it is for the wife, to go through the whole process, especially with the physical side. It takes so much effort and pain to go through it all. So, I could say that every single woman who gives birth in this world is such a gangster in that way. That's amazing.
They say that if you put the same pain on us as men, it wouldn't be doable because we cannot endure this pain. I think they made some recently test where they did it with electricity, and some men are robust enough to
Yeah,
actually go through it, but it didn't look from what I saw, it didn't look very comfortable.
I can imagine, and I think I'm not even lying when I say that majority of men wouldn't be able to handle such a pain. Definitely
Exactly.
not.
Agreed. I'm pretty sure you're right.
Yeah, and if we talk about the change in the identity of ourselves, like after coming home and having the baby and being a dad now, like what would you say, regarding that?
I would say, first of all, identity comes in stages, and it's influenced by many factors, like who you surround yourself with, what are you watching, what are you eating, what are your health habits in general. But it took around half a year
Yeah,
for me to really sink in that I had a son and I was a dad. And sometimes on the way home from work, we work a lot now. We work together and have been for some years. But I was first when I sat in the car on the way home, I was like, "Holy shit! I got a little one to come home to."
exactly.
And it lighted up my whole world and was nice in a way. But also it took really, I would say, half a year for it to sink in and kind of change the identity from being not a dad to actually being a dad and identify as one.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for me, I think the biggest change in the identity of myself would be how much more responsibility I was able to take, about everything after becoming a father. Of course, now I'm responsible of this little one who cannot do anything without, proper proper care or anything related to that. So that's very good thing that happened to me, I would say, because now I would say I'm able to be a better person and how would I say it? Be a better man in general, maybe.
I totally agree, because it's much more about who you are going to become, finding yourself in that identity.
Exactly. And now you need to balance out everything, you need to balance out the time that you're having with your family. You have to balance out the time that you're investing to your work and hobbies, etc. So it takes tremendous amount of thinking, planning, scheduling, and effort to make it all work. And you know,
And that's exactly what I'm thinking about right now, because when you maintain your private family life, you neglect your friendships.
yeah,
And when you are maintaining the friendships, you're neglecting your family. So it's like a hard fine line, like you say, a lot of struggling with planning and time and all this, a lot of visits, especially in the beginning.
yes,
And I would say, identity wise, I'm not in any way the same person I was when I became a dad the first time today. I'm not, and that all happened in 5 years, 5.5 years.
yeah. But that's amazing to hear, and I'm sure it has taught you a lot of things, about life in general, of course, like being a dad, being a person in your work, being a person in your hobbies, being person with your friends and everything,
Agreed.
it's very different nowadays.
Absolutely. And I would end it by saying, before I was kind of a savage. And I believe that having kids saved my life. It sounds so dramatically, but made my life go in a direction that had purpose from sailing completely without a compass before.
100%, 100%. Like you said, it gives you purpose for your life in a different meaning, I would say. Yes, so now we have had pretty good discussion about our experiences before getting into the fatherhood and a little bit after that. So maybe the summarizing questions would be, what has fatherhood taught you so far?
That's a really deep question, and I think it's also a question that is hard to answer in one answer. For myself, the most important lesson I learned is when I look at my kids, they are a direct mirror of my behavior. And if I want to change something in them, I need to change it in myself first. And then I will see the problem is you don't see it the day one.
Yeah.
You see it over hard, consistent, everyday choices where you don't feel like it, you don't want it, you don't actually have to do it. Yes, if you wanted to see it through, but showing up for yourself and your kids in this case, consistently for over a period of time, I would say weeks, even months, then you're gonna get the result. And that had kind of made me reflect so much on myself, evolved as a person, as a man, and as a father. That is probably the most important thing that fatherhood have taught me. What about you?
That's amazing to hear. And I would say for me, the fatherhood has taught me how to push consistent effort to my family, to people around me, and of course, everything that I'm focused into, that I really need to make sure that I'm not, I would say, lacking at some points, because that might have some disastrous effects later on. So, of course, I need to be focused and put effort into whatever I do and whatever I want to do. And maybe that's one of the advices I would give to my pre-dad self as well, that just, put into the effort, talk to the people who are fathers already, obviously, but of course, like people who might be affecting how you experience the whole thing itself. And I would need to ask you to give advice for your pre-dad self as well, what would you say? What would be the biggest, most important advices?
Well, first of all, I totally agree with what you say and would give as advice, but something in the line of trust your fucking first intuition.
Definitely.
Stay with it.
Yes, because the intuition doesn't lie in most cases. It leads you forward. It leads you to the right places where you want to be, and it leads you to the things that you want in your life.
I believe the true intuition is always right.
100%. 100%.
So we have covered base with some different areas, especially around the time where the birth is and before and after and all this. I think the listener would like to hear maybe when you found out you were gonna be a dad.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm not sure if we should leave it for later on, or if we could give a little teaser even in this first episode. What do you think?
Well, let's leave it for the next episode, and then we also have a better time for getting in the depth of that question.
Absolutely.
I would say thank you for listening, and thank you for today.
Thank you for today. This was amazing conversation. It gave me insight about other experiences on the side of my own, of course, and it has been very beneficial.
Agreed. And I think one of the big benefits by doing this was also in our previous stage of Dad and Then What podcast conversation. But we're gonna get time to together as friends, where we at least I also get to reflect over from when I was noted about being a dad to now 5 years in with 5 years experience of being a dad, and that holds great value to me. So thank you for being a part of this.
Absolutely, this is amazing. I appreciate it. Thank you, listeners, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See you next time. Next time, we'll dive into something a lot of dads carry around quietly: dad guilt.
Why does it follow us everywhere? And more importantly, how do we deal with it?
And what? The podcast.